a taste of his own medicine.
Don't get ahead of yourself and think you've already defeated me. Although you managed to land a hit on me, this amount of damage is nothing. No, it's over for you.
Yuan suddenly interrupted.
What are you?
Just as the first elder opened his mouth to speak, he froze, his expression contorting in agony. A searing pain suddenly erupted from within, spreading through his body like wildfire. It felt as though his very blood was boiling, his insides being scorched from the inside out. He staggered, clutching his chest before coughing up a mouthful of dark blood.
What did you do to me?
He shouted, his voice a mix of panic and disbelief.
Since you tried to kill me with poison, I'm giving you a taste of your own medicine. Poison? You poisoned me? But I also have poison immunity. The 10,000 poison immunity.
The first elder was in disbelief. Yuan chuckled and responded in a mocking tone.
Just the 10,000 poison immunity? You'd need at least true poison immunity to deal with the Heaven's Bane. Heaven's Bane? You mean to tell me that you can use the most potent poison in the 9 heavens? Impossible. Not even the Poison Dragon Emperor can use that level of poison. Believe what you want, but you'll die soon.
Yuan shrugged. Since his life was in jeopardy, the first elder no longer cared about being caught, and used his celestial chi to not only attack Yuan, but also to resist the poison in his body. Although Heaven's Bane was regarded as the most potent poison in existence, Yuan's current cultivation was still lacking. As a result, he couldn't instantly kill someone as powerful as the first elder, a God Ascension realm cultivator whose resilience and vitality far surpassed even immortals. Even so, the poison was already doing its work, slowly but relentlessly. Yuan coughed up a mouthful of blood after being struck by celestial chi. Your understanding of celestial chi has increased slightly.
How in heaven's name are you still standing? You're just a mortal.
The first elder was greatly baffled to see Yuan withstanding his celestial chi, something even immortals could not resist. After all, celestial chi didn't just assault the body, it attacked the soul as well. Even if he had a strong body, his soul should be a different story. Unless his soul strength is just as monstrous as his physique, he shouldn't be alive after being hit by celestial chi, much less standing. The first elder coughed up another mouthful of blood when his focus was broken for a second due to shock.
I told you that killing me wouldn't be easy.
Yuan stared at the first elder with a cold grin on his face. Though he was resisting the first elder's celestial chi, it wasn't easy. In fact, he was barely standing. If I don't kill him quickly, I'll definitely die here. The first elder cried inwardly. Yuan could see the fear and anxiety in the first elder's eyes, and provoked him even further.
Is that fear I sense? A God Ascension realm cultivator fearing a mortal like me? That's quite hilarious. Shut up.
The first elder let out a furious roar as he unleashed his celestial chi to its absolute limit, so recklessly that it began to tear into his own body, inflicting internal damage in a desperate attempt to purge the poison. Yuan was unable to withstand the overwhelming celestial chi and finally fell to his knees.
That was a foolish thing to do.
Despite the searing pain coursing through him, Yuan let out a low chuckle, his voice calm and cutting.
Using your celestial chi so recklessly,
he said, eyes fixed on the writhing elder,
will only make the poison spread faster.
Sure enough, the poison within the first elder's body suddenly surged in response, spreading like wildfire through every vein and organ. Within moments, his strength crumbled, and he collapsed to the ocean floor, his body trembling, his breath ragged. But he wasn't dead. Even with his entire body consumed by poison, a cultivator at the God Ascension realm didn't perish so easily. However, he was essentially paralyzed. In such a condition, he couldn't even lift a finger, much less use celestial chi. Once the pressure on him was gone, Yuan stood up and slowly approached the first elder with a grin on his face.
Looks like the one who'll be dying today will be you.
Yuan raised his sword and prepared to decapitate the first elder. But just as he swung, a sudden surge of force swept through the water. In the next instant, something struck his blade mid-swing with a sharp clang, deflecting it before it could strike the first elder. The force of the clash also sent Yuan skidding backward through the water. Regaining his balance, he quickly turned his gaze toward the source, only for his eyes to narrow in recognition. A familiar figure stood right in front of the first elder, clearly trying to protect him.
So,
Yuan said calmly, raising an eyebrow.
You were in on this too, third elder?
The third elder didn't immediately respond and turned to look at the first elder, who was staring at him and clearly wanted to speak but couldn't. He picked up the first elder before speaking.
You have no idea who you're messing with. You'll regret messing with our plan. I sure don't. Why don't you enlighten me so I know who I am dealing with? Humph.
The third elder coldly sneered.
Don't worry, you'll find out eventually when they come for you. Whoever they are, they won't find out if I kill you too here.
Yuan prepared to use the immortal monarch's techniques. However, before he could do so, the third elder activated some sort of teleportation treasure, teleporting the first elder and himself away.
TCH. They ran away, huh?
Yuan sucked his teeth in annoyance.
What a pity. If you had let me fight, I could have killed both of them in an instant,
said Zixian. Yuan shook his head.
That would be overkill. Save your energy for something that's actually worth it.
1962, the elder's betrayal. After the first elder and the third elder left, Yuan returned to purifying the poison. A week later, the pitch-black taint that once clouded the waters had completely vanished. The sea now shimmered with clarity, indistinguishable from the untouched stretches around it, serene, pure, and free of corruption. Once he purified all of the poison, Yuan made his way back to the Azure Dragon clan's residence while taking the now purified orb with him. However, he didn't even make it halfway back to the Azure Dragon clan's living quarters before he encountered Jiao Zhenhai, Holy Dragon Emperor, and the others.
Senior Envoy. Are you okay?
The Dragon Emperor asked him.
Yes, I am fine. What did you do to this place?
Jiao Zhenhai asked, his expression one of utter disbelief.
It used to be filthy, and we could barely get this far without blacking out.
Yuan held out the now purified orb and spoke calmly.
This was the source of the poison. But I've already cleansed it. If you go a bit further down, you'll see a corpse. I see. I'll have the first elder analyze it,
said Jiao Zhenhai.
By the way, where's the first elder? He came out here with you, correct? We came all the way out here because we sensed his celestial chi and thought he was in a fight.
Yuan didn't immediately respond.
What's wrong?
Jiao Zhenhai asked. Yuan looked at the second elder, who was still with the Azure Dragon clan, and said,
You won't like what I am about to say. Hell, you might even get angry at me for even saying it.
After taking a deep breath, Yuan continued.
The first elder betrayed the Azure Dragon clan. He had a hand in the poison, and he attacked me while I was trying to purify it. What?
Everyone in the Azure Dragon clan exclaimed loudly, their faces filled with disbelief.
It's not just the first elder, either. The third elder is also involved.
Jiao Zhenhai subconsciously took several steps back from absorbing the shock.
There's no way. You're making that up.
Jiao Binglan suddenly shouted.
The first elder and the third elder are some of the most loyal members of the family. They wouldn't do something like betray us.
Yuan shrugged and said,
Why don't you listen to the details before you come to a conclusion? Here is what happened.
Yuan recounted the entire series of events in detail, from the moment he first began purifying the poisonous orb to the fierce battle that followed with the first elder, and how the third elder had appeared unexpectedly, intervened at the last moment to save his fellow conspirator before vanishing without a trace.
Ha ha ha. Do you really expect us to believe that you defeated the first elder, who was at the second level of God Ascension, and forced the third elder to escape, when you're only at the peak of Spirit Emperor?
Jiao Binglan laughed out loud, finding his claims humorous and ridiculous.
If you don't believe it, I can show it to you. How I defeated the first elder, that is. However, it's going to be a very painful experience.
Yuan narrowed his eyes at her. Jiao Binglan immediately erupted in anger, causing her aura to surge.
Stop.
Jiao Zhenhai suddenly roared.
Be but father. If the first elder and the third elder are innocent, they will appear before us to explain everything.
He said before looking at Yuan and continuing.
If what you claim is true, they probably won't return to the Azure Dragon clan, right?
Yuan shook his head and said,
No, they will undoubtedly return. However, it'll be to destroy the Azure Dragon clan or finish whatever I intervened.
Jiao Zhenhai clenched his fists in frustration.
We don't know that for sure. For all we know, they could have already returned to the residences and are waiting for our return. Then why don't we return to the residence first?
Yuan suggested. Jiao Zhenhai nodded, and they began making their way back to the Azure Dragon clan's living quarters.
I'm sorry you have to experience this, Senior Envoy.
The Dragon Emperor apologized to him as they moved.
If only we hadn't gambled away the key. It's fine.
Sometime later, they returned to the Azure Dragon clan's living quarters.
Has anyone seen the first elder or the third elder? Did they return yet?
Jiao Zhenhai questioned every single individual they passed by in the courtyard.
No, Your Majesty. The first elder and the third elder have not returned yet. We can send them a message requesting their return. Do it immediately. If they don't respond, let me know.
The servants hurriedly went to contact the first elder and the third elder through their communication jade slip. However, neither of them responded. Sometime later,
Your Majesty, we tried contacting them several times, but neither of them is responding. No way.
Jiao Zhenhai suddenly staggered backward, his face pale with disbelief. His legs gave out, and he collapsed onto the floor, breath shallow, eyes wide. The reality that two of the clan's highest elders, pillars of the Azure Dragon clan, had betrayed them from within was sinking in.
Father, there must be an explanation.
Jiao Binglan cried out, her voice trembling.
First Grandpa and third Grandpa would never betray us.
Tears streamed down her face as she shook her head in denial. They had been there since the day she was born, watching over her, guiding her, even treating her as their grandchild. The thought that they could turn against the Azure Dragon clan, against her, was too painful to accept. Xian Bing and the second elder remained silent, but their pale faces and trembling forms betrayed the storm of emotions churning within them.
Why?
Jiao Zhenhai muttered, his voice cracking under the weight of disbelief.
Why would they betray the Azure Dragon clan? They've been supporting the clan for longer than even I have.
His fists clenched, and a hint of denial lingered in his tone.
It doesn't make any damn sense.
Instead of sticking it in their faces, Yuan remained silent and patiently waited for them to accept the situation. 1963 absorbing the poison. Eventually, the Azure Dragon clan calmed down.
We'll deal with the first elder and the third elder later. For now, since you purified the poison, does that mean our problem has been fixed?
Jiao Zhenhai asked Yuan. He shook his head.
Hard to say. Since the Azure Dragon clan has been exposed to the poison for thousands of years, it might have a permanent effect on your bloodline. However, it's also possible for your bloodline to improve in future generations. Can't you just purify the poison in our body?
The Xianbing asked.
Like I said, the poison is already deeply rooted in your body. It'd be like trying to remove salt that has already been dissolved in water. It's not impossible, but it's going to be very difficult and time-consuming. How long would it take for you to cleanse one person?
Zhao Zhenhai asked.
I won't know until I try it.
Yuan said.
Can you try it? Only the younger generation really needs to be healed since they're going to be the ones carrying on our bloodline and legacy. I'll give it a try, but if it takes too long or is too risky, I won't be able to help you.
Zhao Zhenhai nodded and turned to look at Xianbing.
Xianbing, are you willing to be first?
He nodded and said.
Of course. Anything for the family. Now lend us a quiet place with little to no disturbance.
Said Yuan. Zhao Zhenhai brought them to his own room and said.
I'll forbid anyone from approaching this place so you can do the treatment in complete silence.
Yuan looked at Xianbing and asked.
Are you ready? Whenever you are.
They sat down with Yuan sitting behind Xianbing.
I'm going to examine your body first. Do not resist my spiritual energy.
Yuan placed his palms on Xuanbing's back and began spreading his spiritual energy around to examine the interior of Xuanbing's body.
The poison isn't affecting your physical strength, and your internal organs remain unharmed.
Yuan said as he carefully examined Xianbing.
As for the poison itself, it's deeply embedded within your body, from your blood to your cells, to the point that it's almost undetectable. I'm going to begin the purifying process now. Let me know if it hurts.
Without hesitation, Yuan began the process of removing the poison from Xuanbing's body. Unlike traditional purification techniques, his method was far more direct. He wasn't neutralizing the poison, but absorbing it into himself. Xuanbing's body began to tremble uncontrollably, his muscles tensing as the poison was drawn out. Yet not a single sound escaped his lips. He clenched his jaw and bore it in silence, choosing to endure rather than show weakness. Seeing this, Yuan decided to continue without saying a word. Exactly 1 week later, Yuan paused the process and examined Xuanbing's condition, comparing his current condition to what it had been when they first began to see how long it'd take to fully heal him.
At this rate, it will take around 4 months to remove all of the poison in your body, and the pain will only get worse.
Yuan said to Xianbing.
4 months.
Xianbing swallowed nervously.
It's okay. I can endure it. No. I will endure it. All right, let me speak with your father before we continue.
Sometime later, Zhao Zhenhai appeared before them.
I can heal him in 4 months.
Yuan went straight to the point.
That's great. Then. However, I will be done once I heal him.
Yuan suddenly interrupted.
I have already solved the source of your problem, so I am technically already done. Once I heal him, I'll need the key. If you cannot accept this, then things might get complicated. That's.
The excitement on Zhao Zhenhai's face immediately disappeared when he remembered that Yuan wasn't helping them for free. Regardless of their situation, none of it was Yuan's problem. Moreover, it was not as if the Azure Dragon clan's lives were in danger.
Is there no room for negotiation? I have 5 children, which would only take a little under 2 years to cure.
In Zhao Zhenhai's eyes, 2 years was nothing.
2 years may be nothing in your eyes, but don't forget that I am a human. I also have many things to do. 2 years is a long time for me. However, if you make it worthwhile, I guess I can stay here for 2 years. The treasury. I'll let you take 1 treasure from our Azure Dragon clan's treasury for every child of mine you cure after Xianbing.
Zhao Zhenhai said. Yuan narrowed his eyes, but he didn't immediately respond.
Let me think about it. We can continue this conversation once I heal your son, since we still don't know if he can endure it until I completely remove the poison from his body. It's a painful process, after all. Okay.
Zhao Zhenhai nodded, hope flickering within his gaze. After speaking with Zhao Zhenhai, Yuan spoke with the Dragon Emperor.
I'll be here for at least another 4 months to heal Xianbing. After that, I may or may not heal the others, which could take another 2 years. I'm not going to ask you to stay here with me, so you can return to the Dragon Spiral Mountain. Are you sure you want me to leave? What if? It's fine. I doubt the Azure Dragon clan would do anything to me at this point. Even if they want to do something, Dragon Goddess Yeo is at my side. Moreover, my friend, Shimeli, should know about my situation. I don't want her to worry. I understand. But instead of leaving immediately, I'll leave in 4 months, just in case.
Some time later, Yuan resumed the process of cleansing the poison from Xuanbing's body. Time passed swiftly, and in the blink of an eye, for months had gone by.
I've successfully removed 99% of the poison from your body. While a trace amount remains, it's insignificant, far too weak to have any effect on you.
Yuan said to Xianbing, who was drenched in sweat. 1964 Azure Dragon Clan's treasury.
Thank you.
Xianbing stood up once he regained enough energy and bowed to Yuan.
No problem.
They contacted Jiao Zhenhai and the others shortly after.
So? How are the results?
Jiao Zhenhai asked.
I have purified 99% of the poison in his blood. As for the remaining percent, it's too little to have any effect on him, so he's essentially fully healed.
Yuan explained.
Thank you.
Jiao Zhenhai said with a slightly lowered head.
Now, about the others.
Yuan then said.
Let me rest for a few days, then I want to take a look at your treasury. If the contents interest me, I'll accept your offer. In that case, contact me whenever you are ready. I have already prepared a room for you.
Yuan was led to his room shortly after.
I'll head back to the Dragon Spiral Mountain now,
said the Dragon Emperor in front of his room. Yuan nodded.
I'll return as soon as I am done here. Thanks for coming here with me.
The Dragon Emperor left Yuan alone shortly after, but he didn't leave the Azure Dragon clan yet.
Jiao Zhenhai, I will be returning to the Dragon Spiral Mountain now. Already? Does that mean the envoy won't? That's not it. I will be returning alone. Senior Envoy will remain here. In fact, I believe that the Senior Envoy has already decided to help your family, hence why he's sending me away. Is that so?
Jiao Zhenhai sighed in relief.
The Senior Envoy's safety is now your Azure Dragon clan's responsibility. If anything happens to Senior Envoy while I am gone, you'll have to answer the entire Dragon Spiral Mountain.
Jiao Zhenhai sneered.
Relax, Dragon Emperor. He's our Azure Dragon clan's savior. We'll return him to the Dragon Spiral Mountain safely once he's done here.
The Dragon Emperor nodded and left without saying another word. A few days later, Yuan emerged from his room and was personally escorted by Jiao Zhenhai to the Azure Dragon clan's treasury. Unlike most treasuries confined to physical space, this one was hidden within a separate dimension, Jiao Zhenhai's personal world. Upon entering, Yuan found himself standing before a massive, square-shaped structure that resembled an ancient museum, grand and imposing. The entrance was sealed behind a powerful level 9 formation, a barrier that only Jiao Zhenhai could unlock. Inside, the building opened into a single vast chamber, and Yuan was greeted by an overwhelming sight. Rows upon rows of treasures, each one neatly displayed in elegant cases and along finely carved wall shelves. The sheer number of treasures stored within the chamber caused the air itself to pulse with concentrated spiritual energy. The pressure was immense, so dense and overwhelming that a cultivator at the Spirit Enlightenment realm would be crushed the moment they stepped inside.
Take your time looking around, and if you see anything that piques your interest, don't hesitate to speak up,
said Jiao Zhenhai as he gestured for Yuan to enter. Yuan wasted no time and immediately began looking at the treasures. The vast majority of the treasures within the treasury were weapons, armor, and artifacts. Most were of mythic grade or higher. The shelves dedicated to pills held a dazzling array of Tier 8 elixirs, and among them, a handful of exceedingly rare Tier 9 pills.
Only the best and most powerful treasures make it to our treasury,
said Jiao Zhenhai in a prideful tone.
I can see that,
Yuan said with a smile. The more Yuan explored the treasury, the more he was tempted to accept Jiao Zhenhai's offer. 2 years, While it's not a lot of time for most people, it's a lot to me. With his talents, Yuan could easily achieve what most people take centuries to achieve in 2 years, not to mention his real body was still stuck on Earth. After several hours of meticulously examining each treasure, Yuan finally reached the far end of the room. There, set apart from all the others, was a single display, elevated slightly and encased in its own reinforced barrier. Inside sat a breathtaking blue crystal, glowing faintly with a serene yet powerful light. Despite its relatively small size, no bigger than a drop of water, its luster shimmered like moonlight on still water, and its aura was unlike anything else in the room.
What is this treasure?
Yuan asked, his gaze lingering on the luminous blue crystal. Zhao Zhenhai's expression stiffened slightly before he offered a nervous smile and said,
That is our family heirloom, the Tear of the Azure Heavens. Tear of the Azure Heavens? Never heard of it. So this is the treasure that the person who poisoned your clan wanted. What does it do?
Zhao Zhenhai shook his head and said,
I'm being completely honest when I say this, but I have no clue what it does. Huh. So you have an unknown crystal as your family heirloom?
Yuan raised his eyebrows in puzzlement.
This treasure has been with our family since ancient times. It is said that it used to belong to our ancestor.
Yuan stared at the crystal in silence. Its unique aura wasn't the only reason he took an interest in it. 9 dragon symbols is reacting to something. The 9 dragon symbols have been acting up since he entered the treasury, and it was currently having the strongest reaction.
Is there any chance you'd be willing to give me this treasure for the treatment? I'm willing to treat all of your children for this one treasure.
Yuan said.
That's. I'm sorry, but that's impossible.
Yuan pondered for a moment before speaking.
What if I give you a few drops of immortal monarch's blood? What? The immortal monarch's blood?
Zhao Zhenhai couldn't believe his ears and almost fell down from shock. Among the beast race, there existed a widely famous legend, one that had endured for generations. It was said that the blood of the immortal monarch possessed a miraculous property, the ability to elevate the bloodline of any who absorbed it. For beasts of royal lineage, who valued the purity of their bloodline more than life itself, such a thing was beyond priceless. 1965 Tear of the Azure Heavens. After Yuan offered the immortal monarch's blood for the Tear of the Azure Heavens, Zhao Zhenhai began to seriously contemplate his offer. The immortal monarch's blood would not only help the Azure Dragon clan recover their weakened bloodline, but might even strengthen it past their original purity.
How many drops of the immortal monarch's blood do you possess?
Zhao Zhenhai asked in a hesitant tone. Yuan smiled and said,
Enough for you and all of your children. That much?
Zhao Zhenhai almost couldn't believe his ears. However, Zhao Zhenhai didn't immediately agree and pondered. The Tears of Azure Heavens has been with our family since ancient times, but if I'm being honest, we have no use for it. Hell, we don't even know what it does. However, if we have the immortal monarch's blood, it would solve our predicament and might even strengthen our bloodline. But for him to offer something as valuable as the immortal monarch's blood, the Tears of Azure Heavens must be as valuable, if not even more valuable, than the immortal monarch's blood. Damn it, do I take his offer or not? Eventually, Zhao Zhenhai made up his mind and spoke. However, Zhao Zhenhai's voice abruptly stopped, and his eyes widened with shock and disbelief when Yuan suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood. Both Zhao Zhenhai and Yuan simultaneously looked down, only to see a gleaming blue trident jutting clean through Yuan's chest, right where his heart was located. The next moment, Yuan collapsed to the ground.
What?
Zhao Zhenhai exclaimed in bewilderment, mostly because he recognized the trident. He subconsciously turned to look at the entrance and saw a lone figure standing there.
Second Elder? How did you get in here? No, more important, what do you think you're doing? What does it look like I am doing?
The second elder calmly responded.
Don't tell me, you've betrayed the Azure Dragon clan too?
Zhao Zhenhai's voice trembled with disbelief as shock flooded his face. After the first elder and the third elder's sudden betrayal, they had tirelessly interrogated the second elder for the past 4 months to ensure that he wasn't working with them, since the three of them were like peas in a pod. And after many hours of questioning, the second elder had been cleared of any suspicion. But alas,
why did the three of you betray the Azure Dragon clan?
Zhao Zhenhai roared as his cultivation erupted furiously. The second elder shrugged and said,
"It's quite simple. The Azure Dragon clan is no longer worth our protection and loyalty. There's no way you'd be stupid enough to betray us over such a reason."
The second elder smiled and said,
"You're right. We found a place that's worth our loyalty." Who are you working for?"
Zhao Zhenhai roared as he pounced at the second elder.
"Does it even matter? The Azure Dragon clan will soon cease to exist, anyway."
The second elder calmly raised his hand and deflected Zhao Zhenhai's furious strike. The clash sent shockwaves rippling through the treasury, but with both of them being at the 4th level of the God Ascension realm, they stood locked in place, equally matched.
"I'll force everything out of you even if it's the last thing I do."
Zhao Zhenhai roared.
"I'd like to see you try."
Zhao Zhenhai and the second elder clashed fiercely, their battle shaking the very foundation of the dimension. Blades of energy tore through the air, waves of celestial chi collided, and spatial distortions cracked around them like glass. Yet, despite the overwhelming power of their techniques, not a single treasure in the room was disturbed. Every weapon, pill, and artifact remained untouched. After nearly 1,000 intense exchanges, the tide of battle began to shift, and the second elder's cultivation suddenly increased to the 5th level. The second elder, though evenly matched at first, immediately started to gain the upper hand.
"Ha ha ha. How do you like this? I, who have always been slightly behind you, am now stronger. This is the result of betraying the Azure Dragon clan. You despicable bastard."
Eventually, the second elder overpowered Zhao Zhenhai and sent him flying across the treasury.
"Once I kill you, acquire the tier of the Azure Heavens, and accomplish our goal, we'll receive even more benefit from the Mystic Sea Dragon clan."
Zhao Zhenhai trembled after hearing the name Mystic Sea Dragon Clan.
"You were colluding with the Mystic Sea Dragon clan this entire time? You low-life bastards."
Zhao Zhenhai roared, his voice thunderous with fury. The second elder covered his mouth with a hand and spoke in a teasing tone.
"Oops. I wasn't supposed to reveal that. Well, it doesn't really matter since you're going to die so."
In the midst of his sentence, the second elder suddenly stiffened, a sharp jolt of pain lancing through his back, like a blade piercing straight through him. His eyes widened in disbelief as he slowly turned around, only to see Yuan standing mere inches behind him, a dagger firmly gripped in his hand.
"You. How are you still alive?"
The second elder gasped, staggering slightly as a burning pain rippled throughout his body. However, what stunned him even more than the fact that Yuan was still alive after taking a spear through the heart was how he had managed to slip behind him completely unnoticed.
"Just like the first elder, you seem to like attacking people from the back, so I'm letting you experience it for yourself. How is it? Do you enjoy it?"
Snapping out of his daze, the second elder roared loudly and lashed out with a wild, powerful swing of his arm. Splat! Yuan's head was torn clean from his shoulders before it hurtled across the room, where it struck the wall with a sickening splatter of blood.
"That son of a bitch. I don't know how he survived being struck in the heart, but he's definitely dead now. No mortal can survive without their head."
However, as the second elder turned away from the blood-smeared wall and back toward Yuan, his eyes widened in shock, and his complexion paled instantly, almost as if he'd seen a ghost.
"Sup?"
Yuan said with a smile on his face. 1966, a glimpse